Hello everyone, this is Joy and welcome to another conversation with me. A few weeks ago, I was invited to be a reactor to a talk of a very prominent scientist and academician, and I said yes because it was an opportunity to share some ideas.
Good morning, everyone, from Central Mindanao University, Muzwan Bukidnon. Thank you to UP Mindanao in general for inviting me as one of the reactors. So kudos to the organizers and hi to my fellow reactors. Thank you definitely to Academician Professor Dr. Rasco for the very substantial and thought-provoking talk. I am sure that after today, there will be a lot of conversations about your topic, and congratulations on being the first Emeritus Professor of UP Mindanao. You are well deserving of that honor, sir. Now, I have very limited time, so I'm going to dive in immediately. I played with the title of Dr. Rasco's talk and will share quickly on PP to PB Nurture Nature for FNHS, or parallel programs to plant breeding, nurture nature for food nutrition and health security. I was actually tempted to add for infinity and beyond. Anyway, nurture nature because I believe that even without informal or formal planning, we have so much natural resources we have that are not fully utilized yet for FNHS. Hence the title of my talk. But before I go to the meat of my sharing, I wish to raise one question or two for Academician Rasco, which I hope he would address later. So my question is, microorganisms are easier to breed because of their short life cycles, but how to address the concern that microorganisms could also very easily mutate? How about the stability and sustainability of improved traits? That is something that I hope he would address later. So, I have two key points to make here: that there are many NUCs and many UUCVs in the country. So NUCs are neglected and underutilized crop species, and UUCVs are unknown or underutilized crop varieties. Now, NUCs are often very low-key. They require less inputs, they are hardy species, they are resilient, and very nutritious, except that they are unfortunately not popular, almost unknown, hence neglected and underutilized. They are actually very good resources for FNHS. Often, however, they are displaced because many people think that they are just weeds or basically unuseful. Now, for the UUCVs, they have been developed through breeding programs, but ask anyone about crop varieties, only a few could enumerate formal names and specific characteristics. I remember a special lecture before of Academician and now CIRCA Director Dr. Glenn Gregorio entitled "What's in a Name?" And even many agriculture students barely know their crop varieties, and something has to be done about it. And unfortunately, many farmers just continue to grow old varieties, and those who try new ones, some would be disappointed. Just because a bag of seed is expensive doesn't mean that this will also perform well even in marginal farmlands. So there are many issues here that I don't have time to elaborate. Now, on the right is an example of a very good book on the huge importance of neglected and underutilized species in general, or NUS, for nutrition and health. And by the way, this is a downloadable ebook, and I hope the participants would find time to search for this book and read it up. Now, why are there a lot of nooks? Let me share some statistics. So, there are actually close to 500,000 plant species identified in the world, and there are still a lot that are unidentified. And out of this 400,000 plant species, less than 8,000 species have records of cultivation or had been collected for use. And about 30 species serve as primary food. So only 30 serve as primary food. And from this 30, only 5 species that include rice, wheat, corn, millet, and sorghum provide for 60% of food needs of global population. Hence, there are a lot of nooks or NUCS. So when we do traditional plant breeding, on average of 10 to 15 years, new varieties may be released, and that's for annual crops. Perennial crops definitely would take longer. Now, if traditional plant breeding will be complemented with modern breeding strategies, such as marker-assisted selection, perhaps a few years less. But the fact is the same, that plant breeding outputs that are better crop varieties take years to be produced. And it is expensive as well. Now, holobiont breeding is definitely very interesting, and it is going to be cutting-edge science. And when we finally reach the time that it would be applied, then I'm sure that there would be a lot of opportunities out of this particular area. For humans alone, I know that we have thousands of species of microorganisms in our gut system that are essential for our daily biological functions. So definitely this is going to be a very interesting area of study eventually. However, we need parallel programs. They are as important while waiting for plant breeding outputs. And these are examples of parallel programs that I could think about, and I know that perhaps a lot of the participants would have other ideas too. So first is to definitely mainstream the nooks, to popularize them, to develop new products, to advertise, to champion their uses, to highlight their advantages, etc. They can be essential resources for community gardens, school gardens, and many other useful places. And second would be edible landscaping of all academe, government agencies, and a lot of other spaces, and nooks could come in as part of the design. Now, third is that I really think that we need to educate Filipinos very early on about food and science nutrition, or food and nutrition science. What amazes me is that most Aggie students know the number of the essential elements needed for good plant growth and development, but do not actually know how many essential elements they need for their own, which could actually range from 90 to more than 100. So I believe that curricular program enhancement, such as including food and nutrition science as a new required subject for all school levels, should be considered. Now, another one is to definitely optimize and popularize UUCVs. And because a lot of funds had been spent for it, and they have to be truly optimized. And farmers, crop growers, and even consumers should definitely know more about crop varieties and their desirable traits. Fifth is to improve science communication. Many times and oftentimes scientists are sort of accused of not really translating their science and their wonderful outputs to understandable level by communities. And sixth would be bridging science and policy making. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of ideas, and for the ones I've listed, unfortunately, I don't have time to further elaborate on each. But let this be also a conversation starter for all of you. Now, we have 2 years of research about nooks in Bukidnon, and in this slide would be some of the pictures of the nooks. And we have found out that many rural communities in Bukidnon still have a considerable amount of NUS, or neglected and underutilized species, whether agronomic, medicinal, fruits and vegetables, and perhaps this would be true to many other provinces in the country. Now, these are some of our findings in our first year of research. So we have recorded 26 agronomic species, cereals, legumes, and root crops. Their names, however, are in the vernacular, and we really need to validate this. These are two of the prominent cereals, adlay or aglay and dawa, which are still very wonderful species, but even the young generations, well, definitely the young generations are not very aware of this too. This is a list of medicinal species according to our respondents that are, well, more than 100. And definitely we need to validate them because, again, they are still in their vernacular names. This is just a continuation of the list of the previous slide. Now I'm showing you a collage of some of the other nooks that we have recorded in our research. So I'm going to finish up with two of several hashtags that promote what I believe and what I'm trying to help realize, because this country has so much resources and so many communities have more plant resources for food, nutrition, and health security than they know. It actually made me a bit sad that during the first few months of the national lockdown because of COVID-19, many people subsisted on canned goods and noodles that were provided as food assistance. I was just hoping that they have enriched these processed foods with nooks that are often ignored around them for better nutrition, and if only they are empowered with more knowledge. So indeed, we don't live on rice alone, and no Filipino should be hungry, and I believe that it is very doable for us to eventually SDGs 1, 2, and 3. And so I finish with this slide and remind everybody that advocacy is as important as science and technology. So daghang salamat, and again, thank you UP Mindanao, and thank you Dr. Rasco. Good morning once again.